My text exploration was on the test of word reading efficiency, TOWRE. I'll call the TOWRE test. TOWRE. Test of word reading efficiency, authors Joseph K. Torkelson, Richard K. Wagner, and Carol A. Rochot. It is published by ProEd from Texas. This is the 1999 edition that I had access to through this class. There is now a second edition. According to the manual, the test of word reading efficiency, TOWRE, is designed to measure an individual's ability to pronounce printed word accurately and fluidly. TOWRE was developed to provide a quick mesh of efficient printed word recognition because of the critical role that accurately fluid word reading skills play in an overall reading development, because weaknesses in these skills are particularly diagnostic of reading problems at every age level. Fluency may sometimes occur independently of problems with accuracy. By testing for speed, remedial interventions can also be checked for effectiveness. TOWRE can be used to monitor a child's response to intervention. The TOWRE was developed because of the need for a quick and easy administered test to assess both fluency and accuracy of print-based word reading strategies. The TOWRE is quick, 45-second reading administered in 5 minutes if only one form of each subtest is used. If both forms, A and B, are used, given it only takes 7 to 8 minutes since some instructions need not be repeated. It is recommended that both forms A and B are given for high-stakes eligibility and program placement applications. The TOWRE is easily administered. Basically, sit beside examinee, run through practice set, and record their responses to the instructions. Read as many words as fast as you can until I tell you to stop. Read the words in order, but if you come to one you can't read, skip it and go on to the next. After any 3-second hesitation, say, "Go on." A review has noted that the purpose of this test is to assess the student's word-level reading efficiency. That review will be discussed later in this presentation. There are 2 subtests. One is the sight word efficiency, or SWE, SWE, test ability to sound out words quickly and accurately, and the ability to recognize familiar words as whole units or sight words. Also, subtest 2, phonemic decoding efficiency, PDE, test ability to figure out non-words through phonemic decoding as a proxy for the ability to sound out unfamiliar words, which might then become new sight words. Word reading skills are a basic step in construction of meaning and learning from print. Identification of words so they can convey their meaning. Students moving to meaning versus just pronouncing, but pronouncing helps prove identification. The authors point out there are 5 different recognized strategies, or at least 5, to identifying words. These are: 1. Analyzing and blending together individual phonemes. This is the basic phonemic decoding or sounding out strategy. Also, 2. Noticing and blending together familiar spelling patterns involving more than one letter, which is a more advanced phonemic decoding strategy. 3. Recognizing printed words as whole units and reading them by sight words. 4. Making analogies to other words that are already known. 5. Using clues from the context to guess the word's identity. Most good readers use strategy 3, sight words, except when words are unfamiliar, when they would rely on strategies 1 and 2, phonemic decoding, noticing, analyzing phonemes and spelling patterns. By using the reading of real words, strategy 3, sight words, are tested, except when words are unfamiliar, when they would rely on strategies 1 and 2, phonemic decoding, noticing, analyzing phonemes and spelling patterns. Strategy 4, making analogies to other words that are already known, is a more advanced decoding strategy that is best built upon the abilities of strategies 1 and 2, that are, therefore, more critical and more worthwhile testing. Using strategy 5, using clues from the context to guess the word's identity. This strategy is the sign of a very weak reader, and they'll often guess wrong, or with the other tools, the other strategies, 1, 2, and 3, under their belt, the student can use the context clues to grow as a reader leaps and bounds by creating more and more sight words, figuring out from context. That's much different than figuring out from looking at a picture. They are actually figuring out the context, and it's true text they're figuring from. Although pictures can help, they really are building new sight words. So it is an excellent advanced strategy. It is a struggling reader's strategy that can actually hold them back. When the words are unfamiliar, such as non-words in subtest 1, that's when you use the decoding skills. Normative summary. There were 1,507 individuals in the normative sample for this test. The ages were 6 to 24. The testing dates were fall of 1997 and spring 1998. Elementary through grade 5 was recommended as the best application for this test. The details, who, they match quite well with the Statistical Abstract of the United States from the Census Bureau, except that the adults were heavily from the South, 82% when they should have only been 35%. That 47% overrepresentation thereby made the other 3 areas of the country 50% underrepresented. So over half the individuals are elementary school through grade 5. That is the best application, the most reliable, although this test, as you will see, stays reliable and I believe valid for the others, but just less so for the older. As you can see, from the 6 to 9-year-olds is 601 individuals. That's 150 per age. The 10 and 11-year-olds, there's 257. That's 129 per age average. So the best is ages 6 through 11, 858 individuals, averaging 143 per age. Now, it does get a little lower as you head to ages 12 and 13. There's 214 individuals. That average drops to 107, but that still is above 100, and the reliability numbers still hang pretty well for those. They start dipping a bit when we get to the 14 to 17-year-olds. That's 325 individuals for an average of 81 per age. But the biggest problem comes, possibly not valid, though not numerically, but a much weaker group, this 18 to 24 group, only an average of 16 per age. Particularly underrepresented would be the non-Southern whites, only 18% represented when they should be 65%. There are only 16 per age. Could not really recommend, but it still could be a diagnostic tool to help with individuals in that 18 to 24. But again, as you see, and you will see, the validity is a bit weaker on that. Where the norming sample is from 30 states, from all 4 regions. They came from participating partners of the company, the customer database. They already know the test. Also, they set up some major sites: Tallahassee, Florida, Kansas City, Kansas, and Auburn, Washington. Reliability. Since reliability is the degree to which an assessment tool produces stable, not likely to change, and consistent, sameness over time, results, then as the results become more inconsistent and unstable, they become less reliable. A test is less reliable the more a correct answer could be attributed to error, and more reliable the more a correct answer could be attributed to the student. With a retake of the test, there will be more variability the greater the standard of error of measurement, SEM. SEM tells the plus and minus of how much confidence we should place in the raw score, since some of the correct answers may be due to factors, errors, apart from the test taker's ability or knowledge. The test manual speaks of tests possibly diagnosing a particular deficiency one day, and then, when retested, the problem vanishes, which of course could not be true. It could have been a statistical false positive byproduct of the test's inadequate reliability. The TOWRE sets its status for reliability for subtests and total scores relative to 3 scores of error variance: content sampling, time sampling, and interscorer differences. And equivalent forms are also discussed. Content sampling, here they look within their own content. We have very strong coefficients in the 80s and 90s. The weakest is 0.86, and that was at the age interval 17. So that's in that getting near that more problematic older age. We have 0.98, which is at the 6 and 7 year old age group. Again, very strong. The average reliability coefficients on the subtest, the SWE, we have a 93, and that's an average. We also have phonemic decoding averages to 0.94, and the total is 0.96. So very strong numbers for this internal consistency reliability. The standard errors of measurement for forms A and B ranging from 6, again at that 17-year-old age bracket, down to 2 for the 6 and 7-year-olds. The average standard error of measurement, subtest 1, sight word efficiency, a 4, subtest 2, phonemic decoding efficiency, a 4, and overall total, just a 3. Time sampling. It was looked at by selected subgroups. It was also looking for bias by looking at this. And again, we have each of the tests in the combined in the 90s, 0.92, 0.98, 0.97. Test-retest coefficients, again, in the 90s or at 90, 0.92, 0.90, and combined at 0.94. Their chart here shows the individual forms, and then I averaged them. Interscorer differences. The average interscorer reliability coefficients are subtest 1, sight word efficiency, 0.92, the subtest 2, phonemic decoding efficiency, 0.90, and the combined is 0.94. So it didn't seem to matter. It was such a simple test. It seemed that it was hard to mistake the administration and scoring of this. Again, they summarized their 3 sources of error: content sampling, time sampling, and interscorer, and they're all in the 90s. They dropped off their decimals. So, my subjective opinion on this test reliability, I feel that this test is quite reliable, except for very few subcategories where reliability dips out of the highly reliable range. The lowest numbers of 0.82 and 0.84 are for the slightly older elementary age school group and adult age. That reinforces how good this test is for 6 through 9-year-olds. However, it is reliable in all areas tested with the coefficient above 0.80. Validity: content description validity, criterion prediction validity, and construct identification validity. There is also a summary of validity in the manual. So here we go by, they reference Anastasi and Urbina, who say that content description validation procedures involve the systematic examination of the test content to determine whether it covers representative sample of the behavior domain to be measured. Criterion prediction validity, according to the manual, is the validations procedures indicate the effectiveness of a test in predicting an individual's performance in specific activities. This was tested against the Woodcock reading mastery test, revised 1987, and the correlation was 0.85. The authors are also satisfied to what is revealed in comparing it to the GORT-3. The construction identification validity, again, Anastasi and Urbina are quoted as saying that the construct identification validity of the test is the extent to which the test may be said to measure a theoretical construct of that trait. 6 measures are then given to test against this, including correlations to chronological age, English ability, subtest change in reading fluency, correlation within the test for entire normative sample with a low of 0.77 to 9.6. The authors state, in summary, the confirmatory factor analytic results support the validity of TOWRE. I don't understand all of this. Seems to be a bit of jargon for me for now until I can figure it out better. But that's their summary of that. The authors make a good case that the test is valid, although as seen in the scholarly review, all parts of the test creation was not equally strong. Types of scores. Raw scores, as stated in the manual, of little but academic use. Maybe some use in comparing individuals within a classroom, but not really standardized. And so the best scores are the standard scores for the subtest and the combined. From that, of course, percentiles and stanines. You can also get the age equivalent scores, which could be of some value. The grade equivalent scores, the authors acknowledge, are their weakest scores from what people say. Sometimes there's extrapolation and things like that going on. And so they kind of are suggesting to shy away from the grade equivalent scores, putting a lot of weight on that, unless you fully understand. It could explain the caveats as you share these. Descriptive terms, we have average is a standard score, 90 to 110. Above that, you have above average, 111 to 120. Then superior, 121 to 130. And the highest is very superior, 131, 165. The lowest scores, we have below average, 80 to 89, poor, 70 to 79, and very poor, 35 to 69. Modifications and combinations. I couldn't find anything really direct about this. They do say that TOWRE is appropriate for use between those ages of 6-0 and 24-11 that can understand these directions for the subtest and can take their practice items and can give the necessary responses. The test is so simply designed without basals or ceilings that it is presumed that no modifications or combinations will be needed to accurately test what the test is designed to test. EL suitability. Again, since the authors say how simple this is and if they can understand directions and formulate necessary responses and can pass the practice items. But however, it doesn't address it directly. And so that is a concern that it hasn't really been thought through or tested. This would seem to cover the ELL question that they should be able to take the test if they can do those things. However, it is my opinion that since the decoding portion of the test is partially assumed to be based on awareness of English spelling rules, those students that happen to have learned some English sight words may have a disproportionately hard time with that portion if they are used to other sets of spelling rules. The ordering information, $75 for the manual. The examiner record booklets are important at $41 for 25 of them. There also are word cards. And I did find a source for the older 1999 exam booklets. Examiner qualifications. It's pretty much, you can understand the manual, you read it. You can understand procedures of standard assessment procedures. So that means the examiner competence could easily, according to the authors, be not limited to teachers, instructional aides, school psychologists, speech pathologists, and school counselors. And of course, knowing how to pronounce English and the conventions of that are required for scoring on the phonemic decoding efficiency subtest. I feel that I am currently qualified to administer this test, especially because of the extra things I've learned in this course. It does not appear to be hard to help staff members become qualified to give this simple test. Besides the reading the exact instructions to the examinees, having the examiner avoid improper prompting may be the most important caveat to this belief. The administration and scoring, it does seem to be well designed and easy to follow. This is mostly because the test is quite simple, and they have designed a valid test so that what you are looking for is evident in what you are testing. If a single form of the test is being given, that only takes 5 minutes. If both forms are given, it will take only 7 to 8, not double, because not all of the instructions need to be repeated. The raw score when scoring should be self-evident, and easy to count up if accurately scored during the 45-second administration. And then, of course, creating the various other scores might take some minutes, but again, depending on the number, types of scores you want, your experience using their tables, etc. And also, we have the quote from the reviewers. They think this test is user-friendly and easy to administer with the minimal of materials needed. Summary of an objective review. I had difficulty finding access to the free copy of the cited reviews. I did find a professional objective review at a glance test review, and that was actually prepared by Eleanor Stewart, but it officially is Hayward, Stewart, Norris, and Lowell, 2008. And they gave the basic summary, much as I have done here, but I was a little disappointed that they didn't come up with their own critiques, but at least they did pass on the critiques of the evaluators for the Boris ones I couldn't find access to. Again, they say it's easily administered. And so their problems, the reviewers had problems with with certain things to do with validity, could be emphasized more. They thought the content sampling plan could be more descriptive. They didn't know how the words were chosen exactly, though I did see something on that about using some known word lists, or how the 45-second time frame was decided. But if it works and shows valid, I don't understand the big issue with that. But again, if it could be better, it could be better. And so it was good to hear these things. There's also a complaint that there was a lack of specific guidance given to the interpretation of the standard scores. And I don't know, again, this being new to me, exactly the problem with that. And so those were the critiques through the at-a-glance critique, but they came through from the Boris test evaluating book, and the reviewer of that was Tyndale and Vaca of 2003. And thank you.